Being socially calibrated is one of the most important things that you can master, especially when you're going out by yourself or when you're going out with friends. You never want to be the kind of guy that is going to a room or going to a venue and you're not necessarily respecting the environment. You're not necessarily in tune with what's happening in the environment, which could then have repercussions within yourself and the people that you're around, right? Because it could bring either your value up as a person or it could bring your value down, and perhaps even with the dynamic of your group, right? So I'd like to think about this a lot because when it comes down to even my job as being in real estate, I have to understand who it is that I'm speaking to, where it is that they're at, the things that I can speak to them about, and the things that are possibly best if I ease into them as we're beginning to know each other and understand who it is that I'm speaking to, right? So the first thing that I'll say is when you enter the room, observe the environment, right? Any room that you're in, don't just think to yourself that you're just in a safe place automatically because you think you should be safe. There are so many people that have gotten themselves into deep fucking shit because they're sitting here talking about themselves, giving off all kinds of information away to a complete stranger that could possibly utilize that information to get you in a fucking shitty situation, right? So you also have to understand that not every room that you step in is going to be a friendly room, right? And you want to know what rooms you're stepping into. Are they friendly? Are you going to have a problem here? How are you going to be able to make friends with the people that are in that room? And then it could eventually serve you as an asset because of potential business connections. Maybe, there's women in there that you want to talk to and perhaps you can get a date. It doesn't matter, right? But the whole point is being likable instead of being a target within the rooms that you step into, especially if you don't know anybody in these rooms. So the first thing that I like to do when I step into a room is I like to observe. I like to observe the facial expressions and the body language within the people in the room. Are they shrugged? Are they kind of like slouched a little bit? Are they a little bit tight in regards to their arms, which means typically that they're closed off or not being receptive? Or are they a little bit more relaxed? Are they a little bit more open? Do they have a smile on their face? These are certain indication that perhaps they're there for a good time, they're more open, and they're okay with possibly introducing newer conversations and more conversations, right? Another thing is if you're in a room and it's quiet, let's say like a library, and then you go into the library and you're fucking screaming, people are going to get pissed off at you, right? And they're going to be like, yo, who the fuck is this guy disrupting the environment? And then you're going to get kicked out, or you're going to be now a threat to the environment because you're not in compliance with the environment, which then eventually it's going to lead to you being kicked out of that environment and not welcome back. And that is not the kind of reputation that you want, right? So that's the first thing. Observe the environment. How are the facial expressions within the people that are within that environment? Are they more open to your communication or are they more closed off to your communication? And there's ways that you can open people up, right? The second thing that I will say is greet the environment, right? I've been on tons of hikes before, and something that I was taught very early on when I'm coming across a stranger is to actually greet them and say hello. Why? Because I'm looking to see and hear what kind of response I get back from this other individual. Right? Is he going to be polite or aggressive? And now I can go ahead and judge based on their response to my greeting if they're more open or receptive. Because it all goes back to that. If they're more open, perhaps they could be helpful or perhaps they can be creepy, right? Depending on their facial expression, depending on their body language. So you really have to understand that not everybody's going to think like you. Not everybody's going to move like you. Even if you think that you're in a safe environment, you should always have your guard up and allow the environment to demonstrate itself to who they are and what's happening in that environment so that then you could go ahead and judge the environment more accurately, right? So another thing too is the hierarchy within the environment, right? If you're stepping into a business environment and let's say the person that's speaking is somebody that's well respected, has done an insane amount of deals in regards to your business, whatever that may be, now you have to understand that if this person is well respected in the environment and let's say has more experience than you and they're talking about real estate business or the fitness industry business or whatever business that you're in, allow them to speak and ask questions. Don't just try to divulge a bunch of information about yourself and what you've done and try to make this person wrong, especially if you don't know the person. So many people make this mistake when they step into certain environments that they don't necessarily know who's there, and somebody speaking about something that could be incredibly important to you, about your business, about your life, about perhaps your relationships, anything that you can learn from that specific interaction. Yet a lot of people fuck it up because they're interrupting somebody that has more experience than them in that specific field, instead of embodying proper communication, which is allowing somebody to finish their communication, their conversation, their speech before you go ahead and now start talking about the things that you know. Now, the other thing that I will say is ask questions, right? Don't just say, oh yeah, I've done 5 flips, so I already know how to do this or how to do that. No, ask questions. Oh, I've done 5 flips. What do you think about X, Y, and Z? And allow them to tell you what they think about said thing. And all you're doing is confirming what you thought you knew with what they're saying. And now if there's some inconsistencies in what they're saying, now you can go ahead and ask about those inconsistencies. Well, in my experience, I stumbled upon X, Y, and Z. How do you feel about that? Did you ever come across something like that? This is not just how to read the room, but also proper communication. And proper communication is going to guide you on reading the room accurately. So this is something that you also have to practice while you're in the room. Now, another thing that I will say, and I'm going to just go ahead and throw this in there for you, is a way that you can make other people more receptive to you is by mirroring them, right? So if they're more closed off, you can start by crossing your arms, having a conversation with them, greeting them, but matching their tone, matching their energy level, and then eventually as they continue to be more interested in having a conversation with you, you can then be a little bit more open. So then you could start by uncrossing your arms, and then you'll slowly see that they'll start to mirror you, and now they'll be more receptive to your communication because at first you were familiar to the kind of body language that they were displaying, and that's going to allow them to feel more comfortable to basically come out of the fucking closet and start talking to you about whatever it is that they want to talk to you about. And also listen to what people say, because they're going to tell you what's important to them. People's favorite subjects are themselves, right? So allow people to speak about themselves. Allow them to tell you what's important about them so that you can understand who this individual is, what they relate to, what they maybe even want to speak about, and perhaps where you can take the conversation based on who they are and what's going to be mutually beneficial for the both of you guys to direct that conversation. So these are all things to keep in mind when you're entering the room. Observe the room. Observe the facial expressions. Observe the body language that the room is having before you go ahead and start to just have your own interpretations of the room without necessarily observing the room and who's around you. Greet the room, right? Hey, what's up, everybody? If everybody looks like they're having fun, let's say, if it's a party dynamic, you understand that you're going to have to match that energy, right? So now it comes back to mirroring the room. Be a little bit more uplifting, be a little bit more enthusiastic and energized. And then later on, as you begin to be more in rapport with the room, then they'll start to mirror you, right? So these are certain things to keep in mind, because the last thing that you want to do, actually you don't want to do this at all, is break compliance with the room. Again, the example that I gave you, going to a library and being loud, because that's going to disrupt the room. That's going to disrupt who you are. And now people are going to judge you based on that guy that's not socially calibrated, which is a lack of intelligence. And now you're going to have a negative reputation and people are going to think you're a fucking idiot. So understand that it's not about you. When you make it about the room and you make it about what's happening in the room and you understand, it's like you're walking into a room that you can't necessarily see, and instead of like running in the room that you can't fucking see and hitting a fucking wall, you're now feeling out the room first and finding out where the walls are, right? Because now you're gonna get a mental image of what the room is, who's in the room, where the boundaries are within the room, so that you know what you can do, what you can't do, and what's going to take some time to do based on the boundaries of the room, based on the trust that you have to earn, based on the credibility you have to earn. Because again, if nobody fucking knows you in that room, why the hell should they take your advice or listen to you in the first place? This is why you ask questions and educate within your conversations. This is all about reading the room. And the more that you can read the room and the more that you're aware of what's happening around you, the more valuable you'll be as a person, the more valuable you'll be as a partner, the more valuable you'll be as a business associate or a business partner. you'll just be a more valuable person to everybody, to yourself, to your family, to your girlfriend, to your wife, to your brothers, to everybody. So learn how to read the room, practice proper communication, and that will elevate your status and it will elevate your value to a whole nother fucking level. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. I'd love to see how you guys are applying all of these techniques and all these skills to better and heighten your value. Peace out.